Kitchen myths. There are many old wives' tales in the kitchen, many have existed throughout cookery books. But a little thought about science will show they are quite ridiculous. Here are 2 examples. You should add salt to water when cooking green vegetables. Why add salt? Cookery books give a range of answers, including to fix the color, to make the water boil faster, to make the water hotter, to make the water cooler, and to season the vegetables. The color of green vegetables can change during cooking. This is because of changes in the pigment, coloring, molecules in the vegetables. These are largely affected by the acidity, pH, and the hardness, mainly calcium, Ca, content, of the water. Neither of these 2 is much affected by the adding of salt. If your beans lose color when cooked in unsalted water, adding salt won't make any difference. You could try cooking them in bottled water. Putting meat in a hot frying pan seals in the juices. This is one amazing piece of kitchen nonsense. It never fails to amaze me when chefs talk about sealing meat. You only have to look at the pan to see the juices pouring out of the meat as it is heated above about 60 degrees Celsius. The muscle fibers become short and tight and therefore force the water out of the meat. What actually happens when you put a piece of meat in a hot pan is that chemical reactions, known as the Maillard reactions, start. Proteins and sugars react together once the temperature is above about 140 degrees Celsius to produce a wealth of new molecules which create the delicious meaty flavor. In short, we cook meat at high temperatures to generate flavor, not to seal juices in.
Imagine yourself floating in midair trying to grab something into your mouth, but all of a sudden, the food drifts away due to some change of direction. It goes with saying that eating definitely becomes an unpleasant and miserable experience. However, the history of space food stated as follows may interest you. John Glenn, the first American astronaut to orbit the Earth, and the experiments of eating food in weightless conditions, concluded that once the food reached the mouth, swallowing would not be the problem. What dissatisfies him was the unappetizing food. The early astronauts only had bite-sized cubes, free-dried foods, and semi-liquid foods in tubes. It was hard to hydrate the foods again. Besides, the early astronauts had to prevent the crumbs from dirtying the instruments. In later missions, astronauts no longer needed to worry about the crumbs because the bite-sized cubes were coated with edible gelatin. Moreover, heated water at 67 degrees Celsius made hydrating easier and made food taste better. Astronauts no longer to squeeze the tubes, instead, they could use spoons to eat. They even had food trays that served warming devices. Among so many advancements, the most exhilarating must have been the variety of food added to the menu. The astronauts could have a menu featuring 72 food items and 20 beverages. They actually had food choices, such as filet mignon, vanilla ice cream, fruits, and so on. If your mouth is watering, go to one of the many space food websites. There you can get a real taste of astronaut ice cream as well as a yummy filet mignon.
I have suffered from pain on the right side of my neck and shoulder. Years of physical treatment had barely relieved the pain. As I learned more about acupuncture, I decided to give it a try. I found an acupuncturist and called for an appointment. In the hours before my appointment, I became very nervous. What if it made things worse? My mind flipped back and forth between the promise and risk of receiving acupuncture treatment. When I arrived at his office, the doctor introduced himself and then performed a physical examination of my neck and shoulder. He concluded that my muscle was too tight and thought that was causing most of my problems. The doctor then asked me to lie face down on the treatment table. He began inserting needles in my neck and shoulder. Only one needle actually hurt, but he removed the needle right away. Once all the needles were inserted, he hooked up an electric device. The current made the muscle tremble, but it wasn't unpleasant. The whole session lasted about an hour, and right after I got up, my neck and shoulder were much looser. I was feeling pretty good when I left his office, but by the time I got home my neck had stiffened again. However, the next morning it was a little better. To my delight, I found that even though my neck was tight, my shoulder felt great. I could move my arm in a way I hadn't been able to for years. The second appointment was shorter than the first. Things felt pretty good this time after the treatment. The doctor thought 4 or 5 treatments should really improve things. I don't know if the acupuncture will help in the long term, but I'm glad I tried it.